TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. It's that time of the week for Tea Time Wagers with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. And the regular season's over, guys. I remember not too long ago, me and Brady talking about Magnolia Lane and then the PGA Championship, then the U.S. Open, next the Open, and now the FedEx Cup. Where does time go? So top 70 to cut down to the top 50, to cut to the top 30, and of course the race for the FedEx Cup and a lot of money. Scotty Scheffler, the number one seed currently. Xander Schauffele, two-time major champ, second right now. So we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It's free. I promise you we'll take great care of you from there. Travis, Zach, myself, the rest of the team and community. It's growing and growing day by day. And of course, Viva Tequila Seltzer. New flavor, coconut. Head on over to your sports bars, Boston Garden, wherever you watch the games. If they don't have it, ask why not. Get it there. CT Bets and the rest of the team and the family, they're great friends and sponsors. We can't thank you enough. And last but not least, of course, the best producer in the land, Mr. Noah Frank. Thank you so much. So without further ado, the star of this show, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Introduction there. You have me each and every week fired up about Viva Seltzer. In fact, you're doing a pretty good job with it. I just told somebody about it the other day. This guy was into seltzers and this and that, but he wasn't a vodka guy. I said, hey, have you tried Viva? So the word's getting out, my friend.
Well, hopefully that means big stuff, CT. So keep us in mind, keep Brady in mind, keep the rest of the team in mind here. I'm going to go back to last week just for a second. I mean, Hurricane Debbie, Tropical Storm Debbie, just raised havoc and more havoc. Delays, stops, no fans. As a golfer, that's gotta suck. I mean, you know, you're getting ready for an 8 o'clock tee time. You push to 3 o'clock. People can't play the rest of the 18. Start, stop. You're an avid golfer. Give us the thought process moving into that week, never mind being one of these guys.
Yeah, I think it looked like for a long time that we weren't going to get any activity on Thursday, and certainly that's the way it turned out. Debbie Downer is what I was calling Tropical Storm Debbie. There's golf, like you say, had to be pushed back all the way into a 36-hole finish on Sunday. Think about that. You talk about, you know, the trials and tribulations of, you know, getting jacked around on your start time and whatnot. That was pretty rough on Sunday, and I don't know if it had anything to do with it or anything, but boy, was that finish wild in the second round on Sunday. That was just, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. That was pretty incredible. Max Grissom, you know, makes an eagle. And I remember I was, you know, following along and writing my article kind of as the action was going for the recap for the PGA Tour. And I was like, okay, you know, this is a moot point. He just dropped one in from 90 yards out for an eagle, and he's got a 4-shot lead with 5 holes to play. And then he makes a snowman, a quadruple bogey on the very next hole, and all of a sudden we're tied. And then he makes a birdie and takes the lead. And then he makes a, what was it? A double bogey, four putted on a par three. Oh man, that was so wild. And the poor kid handled it pretty darn well. Did that interview afterwards with Amanda Balionis and said, you know what? I mean, you just hope it was kind of funny. It sounded like he was taking a shot at Mickelson, but it was actually a compliment. I think he was referring maybe back to the U.S. Open when Phil had the U.S. Open in the palm of his hand and let it go at winged foot. He said, maybe this is like Phil Mickelson in 2006, and if I can, only rebound the way he has in his career, then we'll be just fine. Something like that along those lines. But he had a pretty level head after it all, and that was an absolutely nuts four-hole stretch, and a lot of people hit Aaron Rai at the Wyndham. A lot of people were on him pre-tournament. He made a ton of sense in all my numbers, but it was one of those guys that I just felt like it looked too good to be true, and I was like, no, I'm going to go down the board a little further, see what I can find. Sure enough, he turned out to be one of the most popular plays at BetMGM. He was one of their biggest liabilities, and I typically don't like to be on one of those guys. So a lot of people hit, and I think BetMGM took a little bit of a hit as well with him cashing. And sure enough, the way it played out for the first couple of rounds, I was looking at all the numbers going on Sports Grid and talking about, who looks good, who to be leery of and what have you. And Aaron Rai was a guy I was like, the way he's going right now, it looks good. And I jumped in game, got him at 6-1, not like 30 or 33-1 like he was pre-tournament, but nevertheless, we made a couple bucks in game. It's been the theme all year, Jeff. The theme for me has been good results pre-tournament on the LIV circuit, not great results on the PGA Tour pre-tournament, only hit one outright, but bang, it's like 8 or 9 in-games that I've hit now. So, that's keeping our head above water for sure.
And after that eagle on the par 4, again, I don't know how far out he was, 140, 145.
No, just 90 yards. Just a wedge shot from 90 yards, yeah.
Hits the perfect spot on the green, spins back and goes in. He went up to as high as minus 6,500.
Wow.
He had a 4-shot lead with 5 to go. Then he gets the quad, but he comes back with the birdie. And as you said, the ending, there were a lot of people jumping for joy. I mean, I was more shocked at the final score. I think Aaron Rai ended up minus 18, where Max had gotten it up to 20 or 21,
right,
and it was just like engraving the trophy and getting ready to head on over to St. Jude. So quite the crazy finish to end the regular season to bring us here to the FedEx Cup.
And Aaron Rai, I of course was holding a ticket on him, the in-game wager that I made, I want to say it was Saturday. I get mixed up with where those rounds all fell because we were a day off, but I was just pulling my hair out because he was missing relatively easy putts, a 4-footer, a 10-footer. I'm going, my God, get with it. Hole a putt already. And I wrote about this. It's pretty amazing the turnaround he's made with the putter. When he finished, I believe it was runner-up at the Rocket Mortgage, he came into that tournament ranked 118th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. Now, since then, he has finished top 10 4 times in like his last 5 starts or something, and came into the Wyndham now ranked like 54th or something like that on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. So an absolute incredible turnaround and improvement with the flat stick. And I'm going, well, why isn't it showing up today, Aaron? And he was really lucky that Grissom, really handed him that tournament because he wasn't necessarily stepping on the gas and making a bunch of birdies. Yeah, he made a tremendous birdie on the final hole to really slam the door shut, but if not for Grissom just having a complete melt in the craziest fashion you've ever seen, he's your champion and not Aaron Rai.
So we get to the St. Judes Championship this week, top 70. And I wanted to grab, before we got into this week's tournament, on DraftKings currently to win the Cup. not this week, to win the Cup. Scotty minus 120, Xander plus 400, Rory plus 450, Morikawa plus 900. And then I took my eyes down. Two names stuck out to me. Cantlay plus 4,500. And here's the real one. The guy that was supposed to have the year. The guy that we were waiting for. Wyndham Clark plus 6,500. Anything wet you whistle there? I assume most people would say, hey, let me get my Scotty minus 120 out of the way and work backwards? Or is this going to be a week to week, you think?
I thought you were going to say Victor Hovland, because we've been waiting for him to come around all year, haven't we? And he was, the defending FedEx Cup champion, scorching hot down the stretch here in the playoffs last season. You're right, Patrick Cantlay is certainly a candidate that could surprise some people. I know some people are on him this week. I don't know why. I don't know what all of a sudden wants you to point you to Patrick Cantlay, but we know he's had success. He's a FedEx Cup winner himself. So that's interesting at 45. The way, just those guys you ran off there, to see Xander at 4-1, that's tremendous. It wasn't that long ago he was plus 250 after he won the Open Championship. And I had a feeling after, he had that meltdown along with John Rahm at the Olympics that you might see his price drift. I didn't know it'd go all the way to 4. I think there's a lot of value in Xander. First of all, Xander and Rory, really, but Xander's number 1 as far as strokes gained for any player on the planet. He is better at East Lake Golf Club, where they have the Tour Championship. Now, he's been money in the bank to finish top 10. You would have to figure he's probably going to do that here again this week. The point is, the next couple of weeks, he's probably not going to slip from his perch at number 2 in the standings. So he could go into East Lake Golf Club only 2 shots off the pace. It's likely Scotty Scheffler will maintain his position at number 1. So when we go to those final 30, you have that staggered scoring system, which is kind of goofy, but that's probably the best system we have right now. Scotty will be in the lead. He'll start at 10 under par. Xander will be second in points. He'll start at 8 under par, and then on down the list. I don't think it's such a bad play, kind of a 2-for-1. You mentioned Scotty's plus 125 or something. No thanks. He doesn't have a great record at this golf course this week at TPC Southwind. He's done well at East Lake in the past, but not at that price for my liking. I might play both Rory and Xander at a nice, pretty juicy price there, better than 4-1. And get a little bit of a 2-for-1 there on the 2 guys that play East Lake Golf Club better than anybody else on the planet. And they're not going to be too far off the lead. They shouldn't be too far off the pace as far as trying to have an impossible situation where they can't catch the leader with that staggered scoring. They're going to be close to the top. I played Rory a couple years ago. I think it was not last year, but the year before he won it. And I want to say he was about 5 shots off the pace and came back to win it. And I cashed that ticket. So Rory, I think, has won it 3 times. And Xander, I want to say he's won it once. But the year Dustin Johnson won it, not too long ago, Xander Schauffele actually had the 4 lowest rounds at East Lake. He just was too far behind in the staggered scoring to catch DJ, but actually had shot the low 4 rounds there over the 4 days. So, again, the point is, when you get to East Lake for the Tour Championship, nobody's better than Xander, and the second best guy in the world is Rory. I might take a shot with both of them because I think they'll still be in good position, not too far off the lead. And who knows, maybe they'll surpass Scotty and have the lead. And then, of course, they're going to be even money or something or worse to win the darn thing. So, I don't think it's too bad to take those 2 guys. I think the best FedEx Cup players in the field, if you will, horses for courses anyway, at better than 4-1.
Good friend, Mr. Brian Gaskell. Hey, guys, I'm with Jeff on Cantlay, and my underdog FedEx Cup draft's been taking him anytime I draw 4, 5, or 6 way overweight to the field for me. And being golf junkies and diehards that we are, I guess the last question before we dive in here, you got the top 70. You got some guys obviously secured into the top 50 where, not that they're just going out for a few friendly rounds here, of course, but might be working on a few things here and there. But you got some guys playing that are 50 to 70 that are really needing a big week to get into next week. Now, when you were doing your numbers and everything, did you take into consideration any of those guys way down there saying, hey, this guy, needs a top 10 to get to next week, or nothing, anything like that pop, Brady?
Well, I did play one guy, and we'll get to him here in a minute. I want to say he's currently in the neighborhood of like 56th in the points list. And that is not necessarily, I think, a good practice to put all your eggs in that handicapping basket, if you will. Okay, you can't necessarily just bank on motivation. This guy needs to play well, so of course he's going to flip a switch, and he's going to play that much better because he knows he has to. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, and some guys fold under that type of pressure. I think it's a factor, and I don't think it's bad to consider it. But again, I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket as far as a handicap. I stick to the same process for the most part, looking at the numbers, looking at the stats, the skill set, and then the odds. And if the odds make sense, and if you think there's value there, and does the guy fit the course, what's his current form, all the usual factors that we're looking at. And then probably last on the list is, oh, by the way, he's also on the bubble for the top 50. That's a nice little bonus there. That's the way I kind of treated it. Last week at the Wyndham, we saw some guys like Charlie Hoffman was right there on the bubble around 80th or so. Matt Kuchar needed to win. Most of the guys that we saw kind of on that bubble did not get there with an extra special effort. Seamus Power was a guy that was right on the bubble that I wrote about. He was one of my picks last week to win it. And I felt that he didn't really he was already inside. He was like 69th or 68th. So he was secure, but he knew that he kind of just had to hold serve. He didn't need to really put his foot on the gas and make some, huge leap. He just needed to play well, and I felt that was kind of a good spot to be in. And so I think maybe that's something to look at this week too. Guys that are maybe right around 50, 51, 52, 48, 49. It's not really an uncomfortable position, but they just know, hey, play well, play steady, and I should have some good results. So I learned that last week, and more so than I've ever known before. I've always known, hey, let's not rely on a guy just flipping the switch 100%. But I kind of learned last week that I like that position where they're in a comfortable range and they don't have to go leaps and bounds better than what they've been, performing at a level as of late.
St Judes Championship course evaluation. What'd you see?
I like this course a lot, and a lot of players do too, Jeff. Over the years, we've heard Phil Mickelson, Billy Horschel, Brooks Koepka, a lot of guys really sing the praises of TPC Southwind. They say it's not easy, but it's completely fair. You've got to drive the ball well. You got to stripe your irons. It's just a really solid test, and I think that plays out in the average winning score that we've seen over the last 9 times that we've been here. Now, this is only the 3rd edition of it being the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs, but for many years we had the WGC. I mean, this has been a course on tour for nearly 35 years. And it was about 10 years ago, I believe, that there was a little redesign, bringing it kind of up to modern standards. But you go all the way back to a guy by the name of Ron Pritchard that designed it with consultation from Fuzzy Zeller and Hubert Green. And I think the combination really worked because the players like it. Pretty narrow off the tee. Driving accuracy trumps driving distance. The rough is pretty gnarly. Bermuda, it's not incredibly thick, but that Bermuda will grab your club. The greens are very small, 3rd smallest greens on tour, probably right behind Harbor Town and Pebble Beach, but right in that ballpark. Very small targets to hit, fast, firm Bermuda grass greens. You really got to be a good scrambler. Really asks you to do a little bit of everything here, and certainly not just be a bomber. Now we've seen Koepka do very well here, but we've also seen Daniel Berger. Horschel has been outstanding here. Mickelson, so Justin Thomas. it's been a little bit of everything as far as success at this golf course. And I mentioned the winning score over the last 9 years, 14 under par. That's kind of that perfect golf tournament, isn't it? 14 under par is like, okay, we're seeing some birdies, we're seeing some action, but it ain't no 23 under where it's a walk in the park either. There's some carnage going on. So yeah, somewhere in that 10 to 14 under par is, I think, a real good, entertaining golf tournament to watch, and that's what we've really gotten out of TPC Southwind. So I look forward to it again. I think it's a great watch, and you've got, basically, give or take a few guys on the live circuit, you've basically got the top 70 players in the world.
All right, I'm going to put you center stage here so you can go with your outrights here, sir.
Okay, so yeah, a field of 70, I didn't dabble in the top 20 finishes this week. You certainly can, but you might end up laying some minus money with some of these guys because of the shorter field. I just played the outrights. I played 5 of them. I stayed away from the big 3, Scotty, Xander, and Rory. I talked about Scotty. His average finish position here the last 4 years has been 26th. Not all that impressive. Now, if he goes out and wins this thing like he's done 7 times already this year, I wouldn't be surprised in the least. But I'm just not expecting it, and we've seen his price kind of drift, really. It's very interesting. I just wrote an article for the PGA Tour. You'll see it up there at pgatour.com under Golf Bet, the prop farm. There's been action all over the map, and apparently bettors have been digging deep and diving into some guys at triple digits, but also the masses are still landing on Scotty. He's the highest in ticket count at BetMGM, the highest in handle, even at the Westgate Superbook, which is typically a sharper book. But then he said, Jeff Sherman, our buddy, they're also taking some sharp play, not recreational, on some triple-digit bombs. So it's really all over the map as far as what kind of activity we're seeing. But I stayed away from Scotty, stayed away from Rory, and stayed away from Xander, and then basically went with the next shortest guy in Colin Morikawa. I can't quit him, Jeff. I mean, we were on him for the Open. The guy's had a remarkable year. Now, he's cooled off a little bit and just hasn't felt like he was really ready to win like he was so close before. But again, it's another perfect golf course for him. We talked about driving accuracy. There's really nobody more accurate off the tee in the field than him. Stripe the irons. Who does that better than Morikawa? Scrambling, he's really added that element to his game this year. So once again, he's a tremendous fit. I got him at 14-1, and I just feel like if this year were to go by without Colin Morikawa getting a victory, that would be weird because he's been so good. So maybe in the 11th hour here in the playoffs, he's gonna get one finally. And then I went to Hideki Matsuyama. He was the last player I added. I had 4 down, and I was looking for one more. And what really turned me on to Hideki was scrambling. I think a couple of the most important statistics at this golf course that you want to be good at are scrambling and par 4 scoring. Okay, it's a par 70. It's a pretty lengthy par 70, over 7,200 yards. And there are 12 par 4s, and the majority of them measure between 450 and 500 yards. So, it's pretty obvious when 12 of the 18 holes are par 4s and difficult ones, you can really, separate yourself from the field if you're doing well on those holes. And then scrambling. You're going to miss some greens, and you got to be wicked around the greens, getting up and down. So if you do those 2 things well, and Matsuyama, he's one of the best in the world, always has been at those 2 things. Over the last 24 rounds, he is second in this field for scrambling. So I went with him. I got a bad number. He's actually drifted up to like 32 or so. I took 28 because I had seen 25. And I was able to get 28, and then, like the next day he bumped up to 32. We'll see if he comes back down. I've seen him kind of toggling, between 28 and 32 the last 24 hours or so. And then I went with Russell Henley. Again, he's like Morikawa, incredibly accurate off the tee, great ball striker, great iron play. He does fine around the greens. And really, he's at his best at these narrow Bermuda grass golf courses. He's won the Sony at YLA Country Club. He's done extremely well at the RSM Classic down there in St. Simons Island, Georgia, at Sea Island. You look at his results there, a 6th, a 4th, a 10th, a 13th. He's finished top 10 twice here at TPC Southwind. You know, he's a Georgia Bulldog, so I think he's very comfortable in these southeastern parts on the Bermuda grass. Got him at 35 to 1. And then I went with another guy that's absolutely, from the same, cut from the same cloth as Henley, playing, in an SEC school in the southeastern United States, flourishes on Bermuda grass, has been in great form, and has been tremendous at this golf course in the past, and that's Billy Horschel, who we just saw finish not only runner-up at the Open. I wanted to give him a break after that. He ended up withdrawing at the 3M Open in Minnesota. I wasn't ready to jump right back on him because that's tough when you come so close at a major. But sure enough, last week he shows up at the Wyndham, at a course he's been great at over the course of his career, and bang, he's right back in form. I think that carries over here. He's finished 17th, 25th, 9th, 8th, and 4th, and I think he's got another top 10 in there that I missed, maybe a 6th here at this golf course. So he fits really well this week as well. I got him at 48 to 1. And then I mentioned the long bomb. We were talking in the Open there. Ben Griffin, who I've seen as high as 150 to 1. I took 130 to 1. And if you look at what this guy's done as of late, one of my correlated courses was Hamilton Golf and Country Club, where they just played the RBC Canadian Open. He just finished runner-up there to Robert McIntyre a couple months ago. And then in July, he took 5th at the John Deere, and just last week, he was 7th at the Wyndham. Now, the stakes have been raised here. You've got a much stronger field than you had at all 3 of those golf courses. So it makes sense. This guy's recording top 10s against a watered-down competition, and now all of a sudden he's 150 to 1 against the big boys. I get it. But he also is a very good fit for this track. He's accurate off the tee. Over the last 24 rounds, he is 4th in strokes gained approach, and he's number one in the field for strokes gained putting the last 24 rounds on Bermuda grass. So, and Ben Griffin's a player that's, I mentioned the current form, what he's been doing. He's been going along really well. So he's the long bomb. I got involved in some of those triple-digit guys too. One of them, Ben Griffin. The rest of them, it's interesting to note, my friend Ron Kloss, who writes for BetSperts, I believe he pointed out like the last half a dozen, 6, 8, 9, 10 guys or whatever that have won here, the average price was like 38 to 1. So I think the average price, certainly of my top 4 selections, is right in that wheelhouse. And not that that means a lot. Kind of interesting, though. And then I did take the one stab with little Benny Griffin at 130 to 1.
I think you saw the drift on Matsuyama might have been, I saw the tweet about 5 hours ago that his caddy and coach were robbed in Paris, and they got they had to go back to Japan to get visas and passports. So Hideki will have Taiga Tabuchi on his bag, and it sounds like his coach won't be there. So maybe that's why you got the couple extra nuggets on Matsuyama.
I saw the drift, and I saw that story, and I haven't checked here in the last couple hours if there's been an additional drift, but I think the original move was prior to that news, and I don't know if somebody knew something about that ahead of us finding out about it, but I don't think so. I mean, Twitter's pretty immediate, and I think it just happened yesterday or something like that, but the drift actually occurred, I believe, somewhere between Monday night and Tuesday morning. Okay. One real sharp offshore book had him at 32. Locally in Las Vegas, the highest number was 28, and maybe they just, wanted to bump it up to follow suit. I don't really know, but yeah, you could have, and I think you can still get 32, and maybe even a little better with this news of the interruption there with his team and his staff and whatnot. But I think, and I don't. I mean, obviously, I'm predicting Hideki does pretty well here. He finished runner-up in 2021 when this was a WGC event. And I think his game completely fits the course. I think the timing is good with him coming off of the bronze medal. Another thing I like is you got a lot of water on this hole, or on this course. 11 holes where water comes into play. What do we remember from Le Golf National in France? A ton of water on that golf course, and Matsuyama was able to navigate his ball around that course without finding the water hazards. So I think it's a similar setup here. Narrow off the tee, avoid the water. That formula worked a few weeks ago for Hideki. We'll see if it works again. But I don't think it's a massive deal, that interruption there, the coach and the caddy. I think he'll be okay.
If anyone can handle it, I would venture to say, like you just said, Mr. Matsuyama can handle that.
Pretty good head on his shoulders, right?
Yes. Did our good friend and colleague, Mr. Jeff Sherman, at the Westgate, do you have an under-over that he posted? I didn't see one this week.
Yeah, I forgot to look. I typically try and look almost every week, and sometimes I forget, and I didn't see the opening number. I might be able to find what it is now. It's probably right around that 14 under par, maybe 13 and a half, okay? I mentioned the average score over the last, I want to say 9 editions or 9 times that these guys have been at this golf course. Pretty similar field with the WGCs versus the top 70 in FedEx, kind of the same type of star power level, right? So I would guess a 13 and a half or so is your number.
All right. And we have dessert. We have live this week, correct?
Right. That's right. Yes. Some live dessert indeed. America's backyard, America's resort, the Greenbrier. This was a piece on the PGA Tour for many, many years. I believe the one and only Sam Snead won his final. I think he won here at like 8 times or something, including his final PGA Tour victory, which I believe was his 83rd. I think he and Tiger are tied now. But most recently, the PGA Tour utilized this golf course for the Greenbrier Classic in 2010 through 2019, and did some research on the course and kind of figured, Jeff, that it caters more so to the bombers. And that's exactly what we saw last year. This is the second year in a row that the LIV circuit has gone back to the Greenbrier. And last year, Bryson DeChambeau, the bomber of all bombers, tore this place apart. So that was one reason I was led to believe that it caters to the bombers. The courses that I think it matches up with are more bomber-type courses as well. Quail Hollow, where they play the Wells Fargo. Caves Valley, where they played the 2021 BMW Championship, a part of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Oak Hill, where we saw the 2023 PGA Championship. And then Southern Hills, where we saw the 2022 PGA Championship. So whereas at Southwind here for the St. Jude, I went a little further down the board. On the LIV circuit, I went kind of chalky. I stayed away from Jon Rahm. He's at the very top of the board because I'm not sure he's yet recovered from that meltdown at Le Golf National. He called that the most disappointing finish of his career, I believe he said. But I went with the next best. I went with DeChambeau. I typically don't like to land on a defending champion, but you can't knock the current form. And obviously, you can't knock the course form. He tore this place apart. So if this guy gets the bomb and gouge going again, he's going to be right there. I got him at 7-1. And then Joaquin Niemann, who has been red hot. He finished runner-up to Jon Rahm at LIV UK, and I think it was the week before that he finished like 4th. Andalusia, Spain, when Sergio won. We were on Sergio, thank goodness, knock on wood. Niemann had a very good tournament that week as well. I think he was 4th or 5th, maybe even 3rd, if I recall, in Spain. So he's been in tremendous form. And if you look at what DeChambeau does, we mentioned he is number 1 on the LIV circuit in driving distance. He's also number 9 in greens and regulation. Well, Niemann is number 2 in driving distance. He's number 1 in birdies, and he's 4th in greens and regulation. Oh, by the way, I think it was his first PGA Tour victory in 2019. He won here at the Greenbrier. So, a couple of former winners in DeChambeau and Niemann, guys who bomb it, guys who hit greens in regulation, and guys who are in great form. And then I went with a longer bomb, a guy that surprisingly shows up on all these correlated courses, though he is not a bomber. He's extremely accurate. He is number 1 on the LIV circuit for driving accuracy, and that is Abraham Answer. And he's also 12th in greens and regulation. But you look at Quail Hollow, runner-up here in 2021 was Abraham Answer. Southern Hills, 9th in 2022 at the PGA. Caves Valley, 9th in 2021 at the BMW Championship. So a runner-up and a couple of top 10s at the correlated courses. 40-1, I thought, sure, why not? This guy has been very good on the live circuit this year. I think he's got a win earlier this season. So, yeah, I took a shot with Answer as well. Answer, Neiman, and DeChambeau.
Double duty in the golf this weekend. Couldn't be happier for me, that golf junkie and diehard that I am here. Next week, the top 50 will be leaving St. Jude's, and where will they be heading, Brady?
Yeah, we go to beautiful Colorado, and I want to say it's Castle Pines. I'm pretty sure it's Castle Pines, which used to be a regular on the PGA Tour, a tournament they called the International, which was the first time we ever saw the Stableford scoring system, if you remember, way back in the day. I think they're going Cherry Creek or Castle Pines, I can't remember. Both very familiar. Cherry Creek, I think that was where Arnie won the U.S. Open in 1960 or something like that. That's probably not the one, but I know it's a course we're all very familiar with. I think it's Castle Pines, but we are headed to Colorado. That I know for sure. It's the BMW Championship. And yes, when the dust settles after the FedEx St. Jude and they reshuffle the points, it's going to be the top 50 moving on.
Last question before we let you go. The top dogs are playing this week. If they, let's say Scotty and the handful of the guys up top have absolutely solid weeks, do they generally take the next week off and knowing that they're settled right there? Or is this something that you usually play all three here, Brady?
You know, it's a good question, Jeff. I actually expected they might take this week off. But I wonder if there's some sort of requirement now, you know, like these signature events or something. And I don't know the answer to that. But I think we might see him for all 3 weeks. I have a feeling. Because I think if they were going to take any week off, it might be this week. It's also interesting to note Scotty leads the next closest competitor, as I mentioned, currently in second place on the points list, is Xander Schauffele. He leads him by just almost 2,000 points, 1,900 and change or whatever. The winner, everything's elevated as far as how many points you earn during these playoffs as well. So a normal tour event, I believe, is 500 points, FedEx Cup points. You win this week, you get 2,000. So if Xander wins this week, he's going to leapfrog Scotty for that top spot. I mean, you could have a guy that's currently 30th and all of a sudden he's 5th. So a lot of points at stake where guys can really move up the ladder these last couple weeks as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking, especially for the guys that played in the Olympics that were comfortably in the top 30. This would have been the week to take off and to see all the big horses there. So that's I assume that they're probably all going to be there for all 3 weeks. So the scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone knows on X that they can go find you at Las Vegas Golfer. But as we always end the show, where can they go find your written work and then, of course, your schedule on Sports Grid for the rest of the week?
Yeah, I will be on Sports Grid coming up at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. I'm not going to be able to make the nighttime spot with Gabe and Cam. I always love going on with those guys, but I'm not going to be in a position to do that this week. I'll be back next week with them. I will be back over the weekend and maybe talking some baseball with you on Sunday on Sports Grid. We talked about the Prop Farm article at the PGA Tour. That's probably up about now, PGAtour.com, under the heading of Golf Bet. And then, yeah, I'll update everything on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer.
Well, a great show as always. Here we are, the stretch run, the last 3 weeks till fall and football and the fall swing. I tagged you on Twitter. I saw it. You saw it for next year's schedule already. And as we're going throughout the fall, we'll be talking about that as well. So great show as always. Shout out to Brian Gaskell and everyone else. So have a good day, people. And we will see you soon.